It's Pete.
That's true.
Yeah.
I forgot what I was talking about.
Yeah, it'd be like Watley, you know. I mean, we can't. You don't get intimate with Jaybird. I
Yeah,
mean,
exactly.
God love him.
Who
you know,
don't?
yeah, we don't.
Okay, I agree with
Yeah,
that.
see, yeah. If you were Pete, you don't want me getting intimate with you.
Yeah,
not gonna-
yeah, agreed.
We're not going to lotion you down, Jay.
No.
That's
No,
what
no.
we're saying. Yeah.
I mean, if you want.
But I'm
Well,
thinking,
no, we don't.
there's got to be a better product out there to keep these things off of you.
So did you try the Skin So Soft?
No, not yet. I can't. I don't know. Somebody sells Amway.
Yeah.
You got to find. You,
Oh,
you got to
can't
know.
buy that at Walgreens?
No, it's
or-
an Amway product.
Oh, I didn't know that.
So you got to get it from Amway. And
I learned
I don't know
something
anybody
today.
that sells Amway. But if somebody knows of something, somebody said that Cutter makes a good product that'll keep
Cutter.
them off.
I wonder
But
if it's
off
something
didn't
without
work.
DEET. I wonder if that DEET is the
No,
problem.
Randy says you need DEET in it.
Oh, and a lot of
But-
off now, they quit putting DEET in it.
Oh, is
didn't
that maybe that's the
they? I
problem?
think that's the problem.
Ah,
Because it's supposed to
Pete
be
bought the cheap stuff.
shock.
Dude, I'm telling you, I'm covered up. They are all over. Everywhere where you got, like, my jugular vein, they go straight,
They
to,
went
that.
straight to that.
I mean, inside my ears.
Oh, now I can handle that.
And Randy said that one bit Eddie Shaw on the lip, and that his lip swelled up so bad that his wife thought that he had a dip of snuff. That it was that. And I'm telling you, it hurts. It'll be as big as a dime.
Well, Randy told me the females are the ones that bite because they got to have blood to reproduce.
Okay.
So,
well, they got enough of mine. I promise you. This next wave of them is courtesy of Gary McCoy. I promise you. Hey, on today's show, this is huge. Bob Seeley is coming up here a little bit. He's got all the results.
No, I got the results.
Oh, you have the
Bob
results.
Bob's
Bob's not going to be here?
No.
What'd you do to make Bob mad?
Nothing. I actually forgot the time was going on.
You were in Philadelphia.
I was in Philadelphia.
Yeah, okay.
Yeah.
Well, it was all about your son, so that's
It was.
That's
He graduated. We're proud of him. He's in Israel as we speak.
Way to go.
Yeah, he's had a little 2-week internship over there in Israel.
Oh, that's awesome.
And he goes to Paris in 2 more weeks.
Wow.
Yeah, world traveler.
Must be nice to have a
Must
rich
be
daddy,
nice.
got a rich daddy.
Daddy ain't paying for those trips.
Oh, okay.
That's arts.
MLF is going on right now. Graph is keeping us posted throughout the show with all the latest results. We don't know who's winning right now, do you?
Andy Montgomery, if I just look, it's in a commercial right now, so as it comes back out. I think
Stupid
Andy Montgomery,
commercials.
They have been wearing them out at Table Rock.
Is that where they are?
Oh, my gosh.
Lake level there. Is it high, low?
It's high. It's up. It's
so
up.
Are the fish in the bushes?
They were in the bushes, but the lake, in 3 days, it dropped 3 feet.
Holy
So
cow.
now the water's in the edge of the bushes.
So how do they set them on fire like that on falling water?
I'm just telling you, dude.
That's the toughest fishing conditions to me is falling water.
Cliff Pace yesterday caught 59 to 60 fish during the day.
Holy. All weighable?
Yeah, that's something he could weigh.
Wow.
Yeah, I was like, I'm telling you, they're lighting them up over there.
Well, we're going to keep you posted on that. Stage 6 there at Table Rock. And we've got our Spro Daiwa Samurai Braid and a Stingray line cutter giveaway going on right now on our Facebook page.
Yes, we do. You need to sign up now. We're giving that away. I think Friday, Kevin Jean, our site manager, will actually draw the name for that. And again,
did you see some of the comments? It's like, holy cow, what a great giveaway.
Yeah, and good timing because you got frogs in there. It's frog time.
Yeah.
I mean,
was there a Ruka Shad in there?
A couple Ruka Shads in there. I think one Spro rock crawler.
What was that Idefo one? Was it the Arashi? I think that was it, the Arashi.
Yes, you're right.
It's a Spro. It's
Spro.
Yeah, but it's like a flat-sided crankbait.
It is. It's the newest crankbait. Yeah. Flat-sided crankbait they come out with.
But he said that he was using that red and orange, but he was adding a little more red and orange to that because he wanted it, the water was a little muddy.
Exactly. And we've also got some Daiwa Samurai Braid.
Yes,
and a Stingray line cutter.
Yeah, love mine.
Oh, dude, those are handy pocket.
Did you mount yours in the boat or you keep it on the
I got it mounted. No, I hate a lanyard, so I got it mounted in my boat. Even in my workshop, I got it mounted on the wall right there where I can just clip it when I'm respooling in my shop. I don't use the lanyard.
Do you use a spooling station, where you've got the thing, or do you just do it the old-fashioned way, throw a spool down between your feet?
Yeah, I just throw it on the floor and just spool it up. Take your rod tip, hold it right on the spool, and it'll sit there and spin while your rod tip holds it in place. I'll do that some, and I'll put it in my bucket that I've got where all my fishing line. I'll spool it out of the
what?
I do have a line spooler.
With monofilament, you always want to pull monofilament off the top of the spool.
Yeah.
What you do is you picture a circle. Your spool is running from top to bottom.
Right.
And so you want the line coming off the spool from top to bottom. So it makes like a full circle. Is there a proper way to spool fluorocarbon? Do you pull it off the top or off
I do
the
the same way.
Okay.
And I've never heard anybody say anything different.
Okay.
But I tell you what I hate spooling. Spinning rod.
Oh, yeah.
I hate if it's braid, I'll spool them all day long.
Yeah.
That's, as far as fluorocarbon or even mono,
It will, if you don't do it exactly right, that line will jump.
And I am the worst at that. I'm the worst on spinning reels.
Hey, here at 11:15, David Croissant, all the latest from the CCA. And this one caught my attention. The Sabine thing.
Yeah.
Cryptozoologist Lyle Blackburn. All the information. This is at 11:30.
Yep.
He's got all the information about the Sabine thing, the sightings on Toledo Bend. This is like Bigfoot.
Yes.
Do you believe in Bigfoot?
I believe there's something out there. I think there's too many people that have seen too much for there not to be something. Now, is it a bear? I don't know what it is.
Is it somebody wearing a furry suit?
Well, if it is, they're a brave soul.
Yeah.
We heard what happened to the Gilly City guy in Montana. He got run over. It ain't funny, but it is funny. He's trying to imitate Bigfoot. He got run over by a car crossing the road.
That's just terrible. They were laughing at that.
I'm telling you, it is. But
You're going to hell.
Yeah, you got to be redneck.
Let's see. Our Exodus Batteries question of the day today. This one bothers me. Should we reconsider the penalty for dead fish in tournaments? One proposal being looked at is a fine instead of a half-ounce penalty, with that fine being paid to the Wildlife and Fisheries.
Let me preface this.
Okay.
Here's where I got this idea. KenSmithFishing.com.
Yeah.
Ken's a good friend of mine, great angler from East Texas, out of the Dallas area, has his own website, his own show, does posts all the time, and is a great informer of information on Rayburn, Toledo Bend. He just does a great job with it, and he brings up hot topics. This is one he brought up a couple of weeks ago.
I don't like that.
Well, here's why it came up, and I talked to Ken on the way here this morning. We'll try to have Ken on in the future, but this is mainly geared towards the tour, okay, the professional guys, because his point was, and the reason why he thought of this, an angler, because of a dead fish on the tour level, can miss a trip to the Classic.
Yeah.
Or he may not win Angler of the Year because of a dead fish.
Okay.
It can cost him thousands upon thousands of dollars. Towards, stuff me and you fish,
Right.
probably not a big deal.
Right.
But for the tour level guys, his question...
He'd rather pay a $1,000 fine than to lose that half ounce that might have taken him out of the Classic.
That's what the pro told him on the phone. I'm not going to call names out right now because they're not quite ready to give names.
Yeah.
But the pro said he would rather have been fined rather than taking the quarter-ounce penalty because it cost him maybe the FLW Cup and maybe it cost him the championship.
Wow.
It cost him a lot of money. And this was a regular event, I think, and he was one place out of the money because of a dead fish.
Wow.
Well, that's $10,000 that was out of his pocket that he lost. He said, I just soon paid a $1,000 fine for the dead fish, and right now I checked the Wildlife and Fisheries and been done with this.
Yeah.
But so there's a little controversy going on. It is some going on the internet, Facebook page stuff is going on. It's lighting up a little bit about it.
Well, we'll get to that about 11:45.
Yeah, and we're going to get Larry Nixon's opinion today.
Yeah,
and we'll get Johnny Geis's opinion.
Larry is coming up straight up 12 noon, and of course, we've had this going on for a couple of months now. Our lessons from the pros, and nobody better to talk about the art of worm fishing than Larry Nixon himself. I mean, you're talking about a guy who probably single-handedly won as much money on a plastic worm, I would venture, in the 80s and 90s than most of the other anglers together earned on every other bait.
I would agree with that.
I mean, he was the first guy to ever hit $1 million in BASS history.
We could not have a better guy on about worm fishing today than Larry Nixon.
Oh, Johnny Geis. What's going on in the Lake Fork is that big, deep bite
He sent me a photo.
Is happening?
It's a toad.
Uh-oh.
Yeah.
Hey, well, we'll get to Johnny Geis here at about 12:30. You stay close. Hook it up, track it down. 11:30. The Tiger.
Tip it on back.
Looking for area lake levels, or maybe you want information on the FLW, the Elite Series, and Major League Fishing Tours? Check out HUTDshow.com, a site dedicated to the great outdoors. This segment presented by Daiwa Rods and Reels, Sam Rayburn Marina Resort, Bass Cash Bash, V&M Baits, and J&J Exterminating. Take advantage of their new mosquito control system. Call J&J Exterminating and schedule a free consultation today.
Hey, it's Gary McCoy and the old Ranger Iowa Pro staffer Steve Graff. The Mud Hen Mike Eccles is gone, and here in a second we're going to visit with David Croissant after a quick word from Lake Fork Marina and Johnny Geis.
Guys, if you're looking for a place to catch that lunk of a lifetime, or gals, maybe you want to go fishing too.
Hey, my cousin Katie goes with Ray, her husband, every time they go to Lake Fork.
Oh, really?
Every time.
Well, there's no place better to go than Lake Fork, and with guy Johnny Geis. Let them put you on a fish of a lifetime. You get two things in one location. You get Lake Fork Marina and Motel and a great guide in Johnny Geis. A winning combination for both destination and guide services. Lake Fork guide Johnny Geis will not only put you on fish, he'll teach you how to catch them. For accommodations, go to lakeforkmarina.com. And for the best guide on Lake Fork, go to lakeforkbigfish.com at the big bass capital of Texas, Lake Fork.
And the CCA's David Croissant on the Primo Target hotline with us today. And David, you know, one of the things that is always intriguing to me is as you launch the CCA Star Tournament, when those fish start coming in and the fever builds, does that like authenticate everything for you the minute that, you know, the phone starts ringing and the Facebook posts start and the prizes start flowing out of the closet around there?
Yeah, I think it does. Good to be with you guys. Hope your week's going well. But absolutely it does. We're excited when that first waveform comes in from wherever it comes from across the state. You know, we have 30 weigh stations across the state that mostly marinas and bait shops and so on. And so every Monday, and sometimes even sooner than that, we'll get a bunch of them sent in to us from the stations around the state. So that Monday morning, really, when the waveforms start rolling in, is when it sort of hits us that, hey, we're off and running. But a lot of times, and this has happened numerous times in the last few years, we'll get a call on the first day or the second day of the tournament saying that somebody's caught that first tagged redfish. And so then it gets really real because you start talking about immediately giving away a pickup truck, or this year an RV or a boat or whatever the prize might be. So, yeah, it gets real this weekend, and we've got 101 great days of fishing and giving away prizes starting Saturday.
Now, David, about how many people in the past, can you give me an estimate, how many people kind of sign up for this? Any type of number? Do you have history of that?
Yeah, sure. An average year is maybe 10 to 11,000 people.
Holy cow!
Oh my gosh! I would not have thought that many.
Yeah, it's a ton. Last year we had close to 12,000, and we hope for a similar number this year. So, but a good year is anywhere between 10 and 11,000. Of course, that's grown over the past couple of years. Our membership is as high as it's ever been right now. So. And our membership grows with the Star Tournament. And, you know, they're fishing in every corner of the coast. So we go out of our way to put out the 100 redfish in places where we know people will catch them. We talked about an interesting statistic yesterday on our Facebook Live page. You know, we have a tagging program that is, you know, everyday anglers just putting out tagged fish. Those fish get recaptured at about 3 to 4%. The redfish do. So 3 to 4% of those fish get recaptured. Our starfish, the 100 that we put out, get recaptured at about 10%, maybe even 12%. So it goes to show you that we are going out of our way to put fish where we know people are going to catch fish, where we know they visit as part of their routine when they're out on the water. The popular spots, the community holes, for lack of a better way of putting it, is where we're putting these fish. I tagged some in Venice last week, and I can tell you, we were in the places where everybody fishes. So, same in Big Lake, same in Cocody, same in Grand Isle Food Shop, same in the eastern part of the state. If you're going to fish this summer and you don't have a star ticket with you, you really should have your head examined because nothing's worse than having to tell somebody, yeah, that fish you caught would have won you a brand new truck or boat had you just paid the $35 to be installed. So,
Yeah.
it's easy to do. You call us at 225-952-9200. You go online to ccastar.com or go to any of our weigh stations that are listed online. Get registered. Don't wait. And you have to be registered before you catch the fish. We've had people mistakenly come to us saying, yeah, I caught this fish, and I registered after, and that does not work. So,
Right, right.
So go ahead and get registered before you fish this weekend.
You know, you mentioned Cocodrie and Venice and Grand Isle. Tell me something. You know, the water levels down there. How are we looking this year?
Yeah, it's an interesting point because I'm getting flooded, no pun intended, with photos this morning of people heading down to their camp, and this hard south wind we've had for 2 days, and combined with all the fresh water that's coming down the rivers, has got a lot of areas on the coast with super high water. In some cases, either flooded, and that's an issue. So we're going to have to really watch that. We hope this south wind will stop blowing a little bit, maybe get a little north in it to blow some of this water out. But you know, the high water in general doesn't seem to be having a lot of effect on the trout catches on the coast. They are smoking the fish, which is really great because the last couple of years have been a little slow by our standards. But the fishing, when the weather cooperates at all, has been really phenomenal. I went and tagged fish last week, and we snuck out to Breton Island before we tagged some fish, and had a beautiful box of trout, and we weren't the only ones. I know Cocodrie, Big Lake, Grand Isle, Fouchon, Delacroix, Hopedale in the east, they're all catching fish, and I hope that continues, but this high water is certainly causing some issues.
Well, yesterday, let's change gears just a little bit here, David. Yesterday at noon, y'all did a CCA live on Facebook. You and Rad Trasher.
Yeah, we did.
Kind of wrap that up a little bit. Was there any major announcement with that live broadcast? Or?
Well, we covered everything that we've got going on. Of course, we talked about the legislative session, the public access issue, which continues to be a hot topic. We talked about the reefs. We finished a reef last week in Big Lake. We're starting another one in South Marsh Island block coming up soon. That's a big deal, by the way, because you know, one of the more common questions I'm asked is what are we going to do about all these oil and gas platforms that are being removed from the coast and the Gulf because it's such a loss of habitat when they're removed. People don't realize this. But marine reefs are some of the most productive habitat and abundant habitat on the planet Earth. They're more productive than the rainforest. So,
what do you construct those of?
Well, the reefs that are out there are the oil and gas platforms. When they're removed, we're losing that habitat. So we've got a program that we're starting right now that gives us some options. It will either allow us to leave portions of the platform out in place, or if the water's too shallow, we're going to take some what we call materials of opportunity. It might be highway construction material. It might be old buildings that are busted down. It may be catch basins or culverts or other concrete type construction material that's otherwise going to go in a landfill somewhere that we can go make a giant rubble pile out in the middle of the Gulf and recreate this habitat. We're calling it the Reef Louisiana program, and it's different than our regular reef program because with the regular program we just select areas that we feel like would be good habitat for fish. We go build reefs. This one is places where there was great habitat in the form of an oil and gas platform, and it's been removed, and we're going to go out and replace that habitat. You know, it always confuses me. You see these environmental groups all over the place. They go nuts if you touch a tree or if you remove, an ounce of wild habitat. Yet they don't say a word when the oil and gas platforms are removed.
Isn't that amazing?
It's even more productive habitat. Yeah, it's even more productive habitat than any of that other stuff. I've seen platforms be removed. We've had divers in the waters as they're being towed out, and the fish swim with the platform.
Wow!
So this is critical.
Huh.
It's critical home habitat for these fish, and it's being lost every day. CCA is working very hard to replace that habitat, to maintain some of that habitat, do it in a safe and environmentally friendly way. But we've got to have some habitat, because the Gulf is pretty much a big bowl. There's not a lot of relief on the Gulf floor, so anything we can do to provide habitat for fish will be good for the fisheries long term. Of course, that's good for anglers. So we're working hard on that. We've got our first one coming up in South Marsh Island, 233, and then another one that's going to be out in Snapper grounds in Vermilion Blocks 119, 124, and then dozens and dozens of others over the next several years that we plan to do.
Now, David, don't you have a Christmas tree project that y'all use? I guess probably would be for freshwater waterways.
Well, there is such a project. It's not a CCA project, and I'm not 100% sure it is, but it's the same general theme, just like bass, orient to structure on the bottom, so to redfish, so to speckled trout, so to snapper, so to the rest of them, because that habitat provides shelter for the smaller bait fish, and even the smaller organisms that the bait fish feed on. So it's not rocket science. You put stuff in the water, bait fish and smaller organisms orient to it, and the big fish show up there soon thereafter. But when you put a bunch of fish together in the same place, like when you put a bunch of people together in the same place, generally speaking, they're going to start to multiply. So we need this habitat. It's good for the fish. It's good for the anglers, of course, and CCA is working hard on it, in addition to the other multitudes of things we're out there representing anglers on.
Are those going to be marked in some way, David, or is there going to be GPS coordinates given out or something?
Yeah, absolutely. The GPS coordinates will go out. Matter of fact, the one that we just finished in Calcasieu Lake, they're doing survey work on it, and as soon as we get the survey back, we're going to release GPS coordinates. That one's easy, though. It's right in the middle of Big Lake. With the deeper water sites, the 75, 80, 150-foot water sites, the plan is to put big buoys on them, and we're still working on exactly how those will look and what they'll consist of. But they'll be marked with buoys, and they'll be the sort of buoys that you could moor your boat off to if you want to. The more shallow water sites, it really just depends on how deep the water is, what the structure we built on the bottom looks like. We may put buoys, or we may just depend on anglers to drop an anchor. So, but we're certainly going to let folks know where they are. We fully intend for people to be on these sites fishing, and they'll all be off limits to commercial harvest, which is not at all a slight to the commercial harvesters. It's just a way to maintain that these sites are productive for a long period of time.
Oh, that's awesome. Okay, now if somebody wants to take part in the CCA Star Tournament this year, give us that website again where somebody can sign up.
Yeah, it's ccastar.com. Takes just a few minutes, real easy. You can call our office, 225-952-9200. We'll be up at Alexandria tomorrow night, as a matter of fact. I know you have listeners there. And in Natchitoches in a couple of weeks. So I'd encourage you listeners to check out the CCA banquets coming up in Alexandria and in Natchitoches in the next couple of days and weeks.
And those banquet schedules also on the CCA website.
Yep.
Oh yeah, Thursday night is Alexandria at the River Center downtown. I'm going to forget the exact name of it now that I'm on the spot. And then Natchitoches will be there, I believe, the second week of June. Two great chapters who do great work, and you can find all the information about tickets and how to reserve the spot on our website at ccalouisiana.com.
Thank you, David Crisson from the CCA. Another incredible report. Looking forward to seeing those reefs out there and the GPS coordinates.
They're coming soon, buddy. We'll get the word out as soon as we have them. We're going to put the GPS coordinates out, and we'll let y'all know as the construction begins.
Thank you, brother. Okay, here in a minute, cryptozoologist Lyle Blackburn, and apparently somebody been seeing something down around Toledo Bend. They call it the Sabine thing, and hopefully he's going to bring us a little bit of information as to what we might be seeing. We are hooking up and tracking down 11:30, The Tiger.
All alone.
the Hook It Up and Tracking Down show. Appreciate all of our listeners and viewers for tuning us in today. This segment presented by Spro Lures, Cypress Knee Outdoors, Nichols Department Stores, Commercial Power Equipment, and Toledo Fiberglass. For all your fiberglass repair needs, go see the guys at Toledo Fiberglass, your Minn Kota Electronics headquarters. Once again, here's Steve Graff, Gary McCoy, and Mike Eccles.
Hey, if you happen to miss one of our latest shows and you're dying to hear what happened, or maybe you just want to know the area lake levels, or you're looking for some great mouth-watering recipes, or maybe you just need to buy a hunting or fishing license.
That's right.
Then check out our website, HUTDshow.com. You're going to find video tips, area lake levels, tournament news, fishing guide, contact information. I'm seeing all the time on Facebook, does anybody know a good white perch guide on Toledo Bend? Anybody know, who could take me bass fishing on Lake Fork? All that information on our website, HUTDshow.com. And like we said, you can even there's links on there where you can buy your hunting and fishing license. Your information headquarters for Major League Fishing, the Elite Series, and the FLW Tours, HUTDshow.com. Dedicated to you and the great outdoors. And speaking of MLF, Aaron Martin's still leading?
Leading with 60.11 pounds of fish. He's caught 60 bass. Second place is Andy Montgomery at 57.05. It's basically a two-man shootout. Greg Vincent is 12 pounds behind Andy Montgomery. So right now it's a two-man race, and there's 13 minutes left in period 2 on Table Rock, so they'll start period 3 probably around noon.
This is stage 6. Is this the final one, or do they have more?
I think there's one more.
Okay.
I think there's one more.
On the Primo Target hotline with us today, cryptozoologist Lyle Blackburn, and Lyle's got all the latest for us about the Sabine thing, sightings there on Toledo Bend. Lyle, thank you for joining us today, brother.
You bet.
Okay, Lyle. First off, is cryptozoologist, is that like a course that you take in college? Is that like a scientific designation?
Can you get a degree?
Yeah.
No, it's kind of a catch-all term, lack of a better term, for somebody who looks into sightings of undocumented animals, such as Bigfoot, lake monsters, all the things you hear about. But there's really no accreditation for that per se. You can't. I get emails all the time. I would like to seek a career in cryptozoology. How do I do that? I'm like, well, you don't. You just sort of by default come into that. And I was a writer, a kind of an investigative journalist, and I loved those topics. And as an adult, I started looking into them, and that, by studying those, you just sort of become a cryptozoologist.
Well, let's give Lyle a little credit here, and so people understand exactly. He is, quote, an expert. He has been one of the researchers on the show, Monsters and Mysteries in America, Finding Bigfoot, which is, I think, an Animal Planet show, Discovery Channel, Discovery Science, Strange Evidence, The Last Drive-In with Joe Briggs. So this
ain't his first rodeo.
Oh, no, sir. No, sir. He knows what he's talking about here.
Okay, so Lyle Blackburn, question for you. Now, down in South Louisiana, around here, we're familiar with Bigfoot and Sasquatch.
Yeah.
In South Louisiana, what do they call it down there? It's got another name.
Rougarou.
Is that it? Rougarou?
Rougarou.
Okay. So,
Rougarou.
Rougarou.
Yeah.
Rougarou, which is sort of more of a werewolf type Cajun lore. And then you get, there's the Honey Island Swamp Monster, which is down Slidell, sort of east of New Orleans. You get various regional names.
Well, I was going to say, there's one like in upstate New York, somewhere like around the Adirondacks or something like that. I can't remember what they call it.
Beast of Whitehall.
Beast of Whitehall?
Yeah.
Really? How much? Because you started off as a journalist where black is black and white is white, and there's no gray. It's either right or it's wrong. How much credence do you give to these sightings? Do you agree? Hey, they've seen something. I just don't know that what they've seen is what they thought it was, or have you come to the belief that there is a species out there that most of us have never seen?
Well, I don't think that every person who sees a shadow in the woods and might believe they've seen Bigfoot or something is, every sighting 100%. There is just a portion of those that are just simply unexplainable as you interview these witnesses and sometimes come to know them and investigate the credibility and they've seen something very close, maybe in daylight. Those I just simply cannot explain, and they've definitely seen something that we don't understand or whatever it is. For me to ultimately believe in it, I would have to see one for myself. I think ultimately I believe in the possibility that there's something out there, and animals can do amazing things. There could be something that's evaded us, but so I'm always sort of chasing this thing and trying to make sense of it. But I think by and large, people have seen something strange.
Well, one of the things that I was noticing on the Monsters and Mysteries in America episode, one of the episodes was where the correlation between UFO sightings and the Bigfoot sightings. Have you found that in your research to be pretty much a correlation between those two?
Not so much. I mean, sometimes the TV will play up the angles they want to, but I did just write a book called Momo the Missouri Monster, where there were a bunch of UFO sightings in correlation with sightings of an upright, hairy biped. But the majority of the sightings reports I've gotten and I look at are simply like some hunters in the woods, some hikers, campers, or whatever, simply saw a big ape-like creature, and you don't, they don't always, coincide with UFO things. I mean,
right.
That's just part of the weirdness. But there are places where you see strange lights, such as the Big Thicket, the Saratoga Lights, or the Bragg Road Lights here, just in East Texas. And there's also sightings of, ape-like creatures in the Big Thicket. So you're like, is there a connection? We can't say for sure.
Okay, what are we seeing around Toledo Bend? The Sabine thing. What is that?
What is that?
Well, the Sabine thing is more or less described as a Bigfoot-like creature between, I've had reports between 5 feet tall and 7 feet tall, covered in shaggy, thick, brownish hair, often described as being more ape-like than you think of Bigfoot. Sometimes even moving on all fours, as people have reported these sightings. So I think, it's strange. It's sort of more of a ape-like creature, but fits into that kind of Bigfoot or skunk ape, the southern Bigfoot type of range. And like we talked about Beast of Whitehall and what have you, Boggy Creek Monster, when you get these regional sightings, oftentimes the locals or the newspapers or whomever will give them these names. So the Sabine thing has always been one of my favorites. It just sounds cool, and it's obviously named after the Sabine River by Toledo Bend, where a lot of these sightings have occurred over the years.
Well, now, is it possible, Lyle, that what we're actually seeing is maybe an orangutan or something has escaped somebody's...
A bear?
Yeah, captivity, somebody that maybe had one as a pet. They've turned it loose in the woods. Shadows play tricks on our minds in the woods. I've been in the woods a lot, so I know what shadows can do in the woods and how all of a sudden things look bigger than they actually are. So is it possible that this could be some kind of, wildlife that we know what it is, but we're just not used to seeing it in our woods?
Right. Yeah, I've often thought that, and some of the descriptions from not far from Toledo Bend in this place called Monster Central, believe it or not, the descriptions did seem almost chimpanzee-like.
Mm-hmm.
But then again, different. So, I've tried to think, well, maybe some chimps are in the woods, but the sounds and the howls they've recorded and things don't totally match chimpanzees, although they sound ape-like. But
right.
Sure, I think in some cases, exotic pets and stuff, who knows, monkeys in the woods, which is weird. If somebody saw, the backside of a chimp for a moment, I certainly think it was a Bigfoot.
Well, I'm going to tell you, if I told you right now that I was out squirrel hunting and I saw a monkey,
yeah,
I might as well have told you that I saw Bigfoot, because you're going to
Yeah.
look at me with the same set of eyes and go, what were you smoking?
Yeah.
There's something wrong with you. Because, it would just be that foreign to us.
Exactly.
And now,
Sure.
Lyle, I have to ask the obvious question: have you personally witnessed a Bigfoot?
I have not, unfortunately, and not for lack of trying or just being in the woods. I grew up hunting with my father. Oftentimes, though, in Texas, in the places where there's not as much of a history of sightings. But I think I possibly have been close. There was something howling and following us in the woods in southern Arkansas once that myself and my friend who worked as a trapper in Mississippi, who is familiar with the sounds of
the
of
woods.
animals in the woods,
Yeah.
could neither identify this, and whatever it was definitely following us, and pretty scary when you're there, with something like that. But we didn't get eyes on it. We kind of, tried to chase after it even at some point after it kept howling, but
Well, in
it
this
just ran off.
in this technical advanced world that we live in today, it is hard for me to fathom that as many game cams that are out there in these woods today with all these hunters and everybody's got 4 or 5 game cams apiece. It's hard for me to believe that nothing has ever showed up on a game cam. Just like with the cougars, here in this neck of the woods, the Arklatex region. Oh, there's no cougars around here. We don't have cougars. Well, it's turned out there's been a few photos that have popped up that there are cougars in our area. And talking to we've had some experts on our show that have actually said that they have migrated from Colorado down the Red River corridor towards the Florida Panhandle. And that it is common for them to spread out when territory gets overcrowded. So I can see where cougars could show up here, but with game cams, like I said, with many as we have, don't you find it hard to believe that nobody has come across a picture of a Bigfoot?
Yeah, I find that as a problem. The only thing I can conjecture about that is there has been a study that was done a few years ago called, in a long name, like Wariness of Coyotes to Camera Traps or something, where they actually proved that alpha male coyotes could sense the cameras and would actively avoid them. Now, the younger coyotes would still run in front of it, but, you just got to say, well, if a coyote can do it, then perhaps if we've got a creature with a higher level of intelligence, we've got a creature that there's so very few of, it's not totally impossible that they would sense those things and just steer clear. I don't know. That's the only way I could put my mind around that.
Cryptozoologist Lyle Blackburn and the Sabine thing. Okay, I got to ask you one final question. And this is going to be a real simple yes or no. Would you put your entire reputation, career on the line with the answer to this question? Is there a Bigfoot type creature around Toledo Bend, this thing that they're calling the Sabine thing? Yes or no?
Yes.
Wow.
I will say yes.
Wow.
Based on the numbers of witnesses I've interviewed and the credibility of some amount of those, that I believe they definitely saw something.
How far north on the lake?
It runs all through there. I mean, really just those woods there where you've got the eastern Texas piney woods that hits starts hitting in the bayou country. You've just got a portion of reports that just sort of spread out all along.
From Logansport
Toledo
down,
Bend,
probably.
north, all of it.
Yeah.
Wow. You talk about get all my attention. You let me be out there, fishing in the bushes, or somewhere, down around Blue Lake, and all of a sudden some woolly booger jumps out. And I'm done. That's it. I'm going to the
We're going to
house.
send Eccles on the expedition.
Hey, Lyle, thank you, brother. We appreciate your time.
Yeah, man.
You betcha. Enjoy
And
it.
what was the name of the book again? The most recent book?
The most recent is Momo, The Strange Case of the Missouri Monster. And if people want to read more about the Sabine thing, my book called Beyond Boggy Creek, In Search of the Southern Sasquatch, would cover that topic.
Fantastic. Brother, we appreciate your time.
Thank you, Lyle.
You bet. Take her easy.
And here in a minute, Our Exodus Batteries question of the day. It is up next. Hook it up, track it down. 11:30. The Tiger.
I catch 'em, God cleans 'em, heaven knows he saves every soul that believes him.
Have you ever wondered who is the best looking of all the guys on this show? You be the judge. Go to HUTDshow.com and click on the show and watch the video version of our show. This segment presented by Lake Fork guide Johnny Geis, Sam Rayburn Marina Resort, the Bob Seeley Big Bass Splash Series, and Paul's Farm and Garden. Whether it's cattle feed, food plots, or your fresh-grown garden, Paul's Farm and Garden has everything you need. Located at 1300 North Market Street in Shreveport.
Here's this week's Cigar Fishing Line Angler's Tip. As anglers, we tend to complicate things by overthinking the situation. We try to impress ourselves with our own knowledge and outsmart a creature that has the brain the size of a dime, especially when it comes to what color worm should we be throwing. If there's one thing I learned quickly on the 2004 Fishing the FLW Tour as a co-angler, the pros don't get caught up in color. They pretty much keep it simple by throwing earth tone colors like black and blue, black red flake, watermelon, watermelon red. But there is one color that dominates for almost all pro anglers: green pumpkin. Tournament in, tournament out, green pumpkin will catch fish pretty much anywhere in the country. So the next time you're just stumped on what color to throw, tie on anything as long as green pumpkin. This has been your Cigar Fishing Line Angler's Tip.
And our Exodus Batteries question of the day today: should we reconsider the penalty for dead fish in tournaments? One proposal being looked at is a fine. We're talking cash money.
Yeah.
Instead of a half-ounce penalty, with that cash fine being paid to the Wildlife and Fisheries. If you missed out when we opened up the show at 11, one of the things that you said was that this really would not apply to our local tournaments, like the Despino tournament.
Not
that's
at
coming
this
up,
time.
Yeah.
But
it was more being discussed in the professional ranks.
yes.
That some of these guys would much prefer, hey, just find me $1,000. Don't take away my half ounce.
And one of the options, and again, KenSmithFishing.com. I want to encourage all of our listeners and viewers to go to that website. Ken does a great job. This
Why don't
was
you put a link to it on our website?
Well, I will. We're going to put a link on there. And Ken's going to put a link to us on his.
Okay.
So we're going to kind of work together on this. But anyway, we're going to have Ken on one day. But one of the things that we talked about was how it's costing these anglers, a trip to the Classic, or maybe because of a dead fish, or maybe it cost them a tournament win, or maybe it cost them the last check of that tournament, which for FLW is probably $10,000 for the last place finisher, last check. So you take $10,000 out of somebody's pocket over a quarter ounce. That's damaging. That's hitting the pocketbook pretty hard for a guy that's trying to provide for a family.
What was the original purpose? Obviously, you go to a weigh-in and you don't want to see a bunch of dead fish coming into the weigh-in.
Right.
But what was the original purpose for instituting a penalty for a dead fish? Because a lot of guys will tell you, there's certain fish. You and I had one on Lake Fork in a tournament 2 or 3 years ago.
Right.
That honestly, we were able to cull the fish before it died, but I still don't believe that fish ever made it.
I don't think that fish lived either. And that's one thing me and Ken talked about this morning. We've weighed a lot of fish in that we knew They were there for the weigh-in. They were live at weigh-in.
Right.
But when they got put back in that lake, probably overnight, them fish probably died.
Right.
And we all had those fish in our bags.
But what was the original purpose of that? Was it
to encourage anglers to take care of their fish and to monitor fish more closely?
But dude, when it's August, there's only so much you can do.
August is brutal.
They
almost sort of ban tournaments.
You get
in
a
August.
tongue-hooked bass in August.
Glad you brought that up.
What?
I asked Ken. I said, I've heard the myth. I said, Ken, I had never heard this until about 3 years ago, where if you hook a fish in the tongue, that fish is going to die. And he wasn't for sure. He said there is some research being done that would possibly dispel that myth or whatever.
Yeah.
But other thing I didn't realize is there are some guys in tournaments that are actually have oxygen bottles in their boat connected to their live wells.
Wow.
The oxygenator system, supposedly, we're going to do some research on this and find out, does not actually infuse oxygen into the water.
Really?
As it is advertised. So I'm anxious to get. There's some research being done out there on the oxygen. I'm gonna find out, and we'll get to the bottom of that.
Okay, Brent Thomas just texted me, and he said on the penalty.
Yeah.
Is it a quarter pound or a quarter ounce?
It's quarter of 0.25, so
that'd be a quarter of a pound.
Yeah,
that's a quarter of a pound.
Yeah, and that's
so you're talking about 4 ounce.
Yeah,
yeah.
You're talking about quarter of a pound. That's a lot of that.
Well, you got
16th and 20th.
You got 3 dead fish there. You've knocked yourself almost out of a pound.
Yeah, you can lose 4 to 5 spots on a quarter ounce penalty.
Right.
So
quarter pound.
I mean, it's quarter pound penalty.
Right.
You're right. And that's and again, we're looking at it from the pro side, not from our weekend buddy deal. But they're wanting to possibly put in the option for the angler at the tournament registration on the pro side to say, okay, I'm going to accept the 0.25 pound of a penalty versus paying the
$1,000 fine,
or I'm going to pay the fine rather than take the.
But
penalty.
you have to choose before you ever
have
fish.
To choose before the tournament starts.
Boy, I tell you what, that'd be a tough one.
Well, and it probably depends on what lake you're on. How familiar are you with that lake? You're expecting to get a check maybe on certain lakes. Some lake you probably not going to expect to
but
get
see,
a check.
I don't understand. Number one, it's not against state law to have a dead fish in your boat.
Exactly. Right.
You haven't broken the law.
Right.
If you want to take a knife and run it through all 5 of those fish.
So in that case, how can the state possibly pass a law like that?
Well, the state's not. This would not be a state law.
For wildlife and fisheries to be involved?
Wildlife and fisheries would just be the recipient of those monies. It would be a donation from BASS or FLW.
Right. Wouldn't necessarily be a mandated deal.
Right. FLW, says, hey, look, we're going to put this on there, and if we've got $10,000 worth of fines in this tournament,
right,
we're going to turn them over to that state's wildlife and fisheries.
I mean,
I don't know.
Let me tell you another place I think this came up. And even though we're saying it doesn't really apply to us at this point, Gary, I'll be honest with you. And I'm going to probably catch some flack. Probably going to be some guys send some bad email to me, whatever.
Some deep water fish on Toledo?
sgraph26@yahoo.com. I'll go ahead and tell you what the address is. Send it to me. Go to Facebook. I'd love to hear your response. A lot of these high school tournaments that are 400 and 500 boats in these events.
Yeah.
I mean, I've seen guys been to some weigh-ins myself where there's 4 or 5 fish in a bag with very little water on them.
Yeah.
And those fish are not going to, when they're standing in a trough for 30 minutes waiting to be weighed in.
Right.
If there is a trough.
Yeah.
There's a lot of fish that ain't going to make it. There was a big fish kill a couple of weeks ago on Rayburn, and it was after a high school event. A lot of fish were floating.
It has to be better than back in the day, though, and I know Jeff Pate's probably listening right now, and Billy Phipps is probably listening, and they can all testify to this. Back in the day, I'm going to say back in the 80s, I can remember fishing on Toledo Bend in the ALBC tournaments, and I believe it was either April or May back then.
Right.
And I can remember them having pickup trucks parked at the Sammy Gill boat launch, and the backs of these trucks were full of ice. You couldn't see the pickup truck for the dead fish piled up in them back in the day. And that was why I wanted you to bring about why the dead fish penalty was ever introduced to begin with.
Right.
Because we depend on public perception,
Oh, yeah.
whether you believe it or not.
Right.
We depend on sponsors' products being in a good light.
Right.
You don't want Spro to be sitting there and they've got a booth at FLW weigh-in, and all of a sudden there's this huge truckload of dead fish behind them.
Yeah.
You don't want that.
No.
Though it's
not a good perception.
It's not against the law. There's nothing wrong with it. If you want to keep those fish and eat them, that's perfectly legal.
Yep.
It's about that perception.
Yeah.
And
what if you donate them to a children's home to feed the kids?
We're dependent upon that public perception.
Oh, ain't no doubt.
I think about the boss tournaments. If all Mike was able to pay back was the tournament entry fees, the field would get cut in half.
Oh, no doubt.
Because the money that he's able to generate through sponsorships, Cindy Camus, to supplement that.
I agree.
That's what keeps people coming back.
I agree.
And you think about the amount of dollars available in a BASS or an FLW tournament.
Right.
It's way more than the entry fees.
And are we making too big a deal out of the mortality rate? Are we making because again, like you said, back in the 70s and 80s, they took them suckers home and they fried them up.
I'm against waste.
Yeah. Well, that too. I don't want to see them piled up in a ditch.
I'm against waste.
Yeah, I agree.
If a fish dies, there needs to be a plan that says, here's what we're going to do. Like you said, whether we feed an orphanage. And I'm going to tell you, I used to live in Washington County, Alabama, and that was where the Hunters for the Hungry actually got started, was in the state of Alabama. Still
another great
headquartered
cause.
there.
Yeah.
And one of the things they had so many animals that would come in. The farmers in lower Alabama developed a program where they were able by law to shoot deer out of their crops in the summer.
Right.
They would kill so many, that they did not want them wasted.
Yeah.
So Hunters for the Hungry was born.
Right.
And those refrigerated trucks would come around at night, pick up all the dead deer, and then they fed them to the prisoners and the orphanages. There needs to be something along those lines with fish. Here's our plan. Here's what we're going to do with the dead fish.
But I think you hit the nail on the head a while ago when you said public perception.
Amen.
Because that's what we're fighting as tournament anglers.
You bet.
We're fighting that battle.
Because, brother,
right now.
believe it or not, there is a faction out there that wants you not only to have your gun, they want to take your fishing pole.
Yeah.
They don't want you doing any of that.
They don't want you catching any fish.
Until a hog comes in their backyard and eats their red-tip patinias.
Exactly.
Then they want to declare war on the hogs.
You're exactly right. Well, we'll get Eccles' input on this next week. And we're going to get Johnny Geis and Larry Nixon's input on some of this.
Okay. We're hooking up and tracking down 11:30, the Tiger.
Welcome to the Hooking Up and Tracking Down Show, a program dedicated to the great outdoors and making you a better outdoorsman. So pull up a chair, kick back, and enjoy the best outdoor show around. I'm Jay Wadley. Here are your hosts, Gary McCoy, Mike Eccles, and Steve Graff.
Of course, Mike Eccles, the old mud hen, is off this week. They're playing on the beach somewhere. Can you imagine Eccles in a pair of shorts and flip-flops, no shirt?
I have imagine Eccles on the beach without an umbrella. He is fair-skinned.
I guarantee you that boy is holding something cold in one hand right
Yeah,
now. I promise
under
you.
an umbrella.
Hey, we are hooking up and tracking down, and on our Primo Target hotline today, we continue with our lessons from the pros, and this one I am so excited about.
Yes.
Because when it comes to a plastic worm,
Yeah.
I mean, I would venture you could call him the godfather
No doubt.
of the plastic worm,
No
and you
doubt.
could have done that 30 years ago, and you'll probably still be able to do that in 50 years from now.
Yes.
He is FLW Pro Larry Nixon. Brother, thank you so much for hanging out with us today.
I'm glad I could be here, guys. It's going to be fun.
One of the things...
Now, Larry made it sound like he's glad he just woke up today.
Yeah.
That means he's getting old.
Are you in Arkansas, or are you somewhere on the water?
Oh, no, I'm sitting here in my house on top of the mountain watching the turkeys, and just got done with a big deer burger, and I'm going to watch Arkansas play baseball here in a minute.
Man, he's living the
Now,
life.
wait a minute. They're in the SEC tournament. How are they looking so far?
Well, this will be their first game. They play Ole Miss today, and
Okay.
they've had a really good year, so everything's good.
Oh,
I'm
fantastic.
good friends with Dave Van Horn, by the way, Larry. He coached at Northwestern State where I played, and great guy, great coach.
He is an awesome coach. I'll tell you, I'm so impressed with that guy. That just, year after year after year, he's
Yep.
always got the right guys.
Yep.
Okay, Larry, we're talking plastic worms here. And Larry, you were fortunate enough to be on Toledo Bend basically when the plastic worm became the staple.
Yeah.
If you went to the lake and
Cream.
you didn't have a plastic worm, then you weren't bass fishing.
Yeah, cream.
And, well, you had Cream, and you had Tom Mann, and of course, Glenn Carver, and what all he brought to the world of the plastic worm. If you were to go back then, because we talked to you a couple of years ago, and you said one of the things that you wished you'd have had back then was the
Cinco.
the Cinco.
Yeah.
Do you think that Toledo Bend, it would have just been Katie bar the door? It would have been over if you'd have had a Cinco back then?
Oh, it would have been all over. But let me tell you something. That old cream scoundrel, it's a hard, straight stick worm, and that dude catches fish. It's a skinny version of a Cinco if you just really get down to the nut cutting on the deal. And there's just something about an old straight worm that always catches fish.
Yep.
Is there in your mind, I mean, because you are Larry Nixon, in your mind, we were talking about color a little while ago. Is there a standard color? You show up, you're going to Table Rock. That's where the MLF is right now. You're going to Table Rock. Is there a color that Larry Nixon is going to pick out of the box first and foremost on a clear water lake?
Anywhere in the United States, if you don't have green pumpkin in your box, you're going to get beat by somebody.
That had green pumpkin.
Yeah.
That green pumpkin will catch fish in any color of water. I don't care if it's muddy, clear. It just really doesn't matter. It's I don't know what it does in the water as far as what a fish likes, but it will catch fish anywhere.
Now, Larry, one of the things that and I'm a big worm guy. I throw all sizes, shapes, forms, everything. My biggest dilemma a lot of times is what size weight to throw when. A lot of guys have that issue. Can you give us some direction on what you do to select what size weight you're throwing?
Well, this may take just a minute because there's lots of different
We got plenty of
scenarios.
minutes.
But, when fish are biting, it really doesn't matter. You can throw an 1/8 ounce, or you can throw a 3/16, or you can throw a quarter when they're really feeding, and a lot of times it doesn't make any difference whatsoever.
Mm-hmm.
Now, if you go to tidal waters, now you're talking about a little bit of current that changes throughout the day, and there's times when you got to have no weight, a 1/16, a 1/8. It's the way the bait moves with the current. So
that is very important there in choosing that weight size. Now, if you're like at Toledo Bend and you're in 3 to 5 foot of water and you're just casting a worm around or a lizard, then the old staple's a 3/16 or a quarter-ounce weight, depending on how much grass you got in the water. If the cover gets thick, go big, go bigger. Go up to a 5/16 or a 3/8 and blow that bait through the cover, and that makes them fish react to it when they're not feeding.
Mm-hmm.
And so that's why it's important to play with weight sizing.
What about our cypress tree? What about our cypress tree lakes around here? How important is the weight size then?
It's very important because with a little teeny weight, you can't get it on a tree.
Mm.
You got to be more of you got to learn to pitch and flip, and sometimes you even need to kind of hit the tree before you hit the water so you don't spook the fish.
Mm-hmm.
So your lure control really comes into play on cypress trees. Now, yeah, you can cast alongside a tree and reel it up to it and then kill it and let it fall. I've done that many a times because I'm not just an expert caster as far as little bitty weights and worms and getting them under there. So I'll throw past it and, kind of direct my line underneath the limb so that I can just reel it up there and then drop it right where I think that fish is sitting, because you're more likely to get him to bite if you can trigger his nerves. I mean, it's just, oh my, there's something, and he eats it. And, if you throw it over there and let it go to the bottom, work it up to that tree real slow, and he sees it coming and all that, well, then he's got a decision to make. That thing got me the other day. I ain't biting this thing. So,
Yeah.
How you present the bait is the number one thing in all of bass fishing.
Well, how long will Larry Nixon throw a particular weight before he says, "Hey, look,
they don't want this.
They don't want this." And then you've got to make a change. You've either got to go less weight or more weight. How long will you go before you say, "It's not happening"?
A lot of times, I see what's going on in the water. I've done this so long, guys. I can read water conditions and how fish react, and a lot of times I can see the fish run from my bait, and I realize then that I've got to make the perfect presentation and change my style of fishing or change my weight size so that I can get it in there without making so much noise.
Mm-hmm.
I normally have about 3 rods rigged up when I know I'm going to be throwing a worm. I'll have one with an 1/8 ounce weight, and I'll have one with a 1/4 ounce weight, and I'll have one with a 5/16. That's my 3 favorite sinker sizes right there. Now, if let's say you're fishing an ultra clear water lake and it's during the spawn time, well, that calls for a little bit of a change, because during the spawn, fish don't fight very good if the bait is coming at a steady cadence and then just goes on. You take the weight off, you kill the bait, you just let it free fall, and it's just so slow, it just totally ticks them off. And they'll eat the thing. So, you've got to be ready for the situation, but basically I'm going to say every 30 minutes or so without a bite, I'm going to change sinker sizes and just see if a faster fall makes them bite it better.
Especially if you know you're in productive water.
That's absolutely right. If I know I'm around fish,
yeah,
I'm going to make a big change. And you say an 1/8 ounce shaky head. Yeah, boy, that's one of the best you can get. Every now and then, a 1/4 ounce shaky head will just blow your mind how many bites it will get, more so than a 1/8 ounce. So, be prepared for it.
Now, do you want a worm, if you're throwing a shaky head, you want a worm that's going to stand up, or you want that tail to fall down to the bottom, or what are you looking for there?
Well, I really don't make it. I don't really worry about that much. It seems to be a big selling point, but for me as a fisherman, I really don't pay any attention to that thing, because by the time it hits the bottom, I'm going to be hopping it back up in the air and letting it free fall again, because 99% of your strikes on any bottom bait either come on the fall as you make your cast or when you hop it up in the air and let it free fall back to the bottom. Now, I understand that there are times that fish get in a mood where you got to drag. I mean, that's just one of the things in bass fishing, but you have to figure that out on a daily basis. But 99% of the time in fishing, I'm going to throw a bait out, let it free fall to the bottom. It hits the bottom. I'm going to pause just a second, I'm going to ease my rod up, be sure something ain't hanging on to it, and then I'm going to just give it a little flip up in the air so that it just kind of makes a little 1 foot hop, and that'll trigger a lot of fish into biting. So it's more of a lift and fall, and if I've got a lot of cover in the water, then what I do is I throw to the main ambush point, let it fall to the bottom, because that's where you get your reaction strike. Then I'm going to pick it up and swim it into the next obvious strike zone. You know, I'm picking the spots where I'm going to let it fall. And I try to do so that fish don't know it's coming. Now, if you're fishing underwater brush or underwater grass, now that's a little different thing there. You know, you're going to throw past your target, let it go to the bottom, and you're going to try to bump and hit and click every limb and let it free fall back to the bottom. Every scenario is different.
What about rattles and things of that nature? You ever use that?
I fiddled with it and I've played with it a lot, and I've never really found it to make a difference. You know, and I've had guys tell me in Florida, "Boy, I'm going to kick your butt. You ain't got no rattle in there." Well, I ain't had it half yet. So I ain't gonna worry about it.
What about scents? You know, like the different scent products that are available.
Yeah, sprays.
I think scent at times, if a guy's fishing ultra slow, scent can make a difference. Yes, and I do love tungsten weights.
Yeah.
Now, whether it's because a tungsten weight bangs and clicks and makes noise, I'm not sure about all that, but I do it for the compact size of the weight, so that when I set the hook, it's, you know, I don't have so much lead to jerk out of their mouth.
Right.
And because that's how you miss a lot of fish, is with a great big fat sinker.
Well, you know, you were talking about the rise and the fall a little while ago, and I'm sure that you'll remember Robert and William Hale on Toledo Bend.
Very well.
But William and I became really good friends over the years, and there were a number of times I always felt like I was in a good spot if Robert and William weren't far away. I didn't realize that one spot was about the size of a solo cup, and you know, you had to be right there. But if you ever watched Robert fishing, especially the crawl worm, you know, his design of the Hale's crawl worm, he would, I mean, from the time it went down to the bottom, it was like he was setting the hook every time he raised up. And he said it was so that it would give it another fall. Have you ever seen fish that, you know, you had to fish that way?
He may have learned that from me.
So that's a Larry Nixon trick.
I'm the old jig stroker now. That's where that come from on Toledo Bend back in the I'm going to say the late 70s, early 80s. We had so much timber back then. When you made a cast and let it go to the bottom, a lot of times you had to raise it up 8 feet to get it over the next limb and let her free fall again, and that's when they had bites blooming things. So stroking the jig and stroking a piece of plastic in certain situations, especially ledge fishing or hole fishing or roadbed fishing, oh man, yeah, you're going to get way more bites giving it a good hop than you are dragging it along on the bottom.
That's incredible. Hey, Larry, if you don't mind, we want to get you to hang out with us a little bit longer. Is that cool?
Cool. Very good.
Fantastic. Larry Nixon, learning from the pros today. We are worm fishing with the man himself. Hooking up and tracking down 1130, the Tiger.
Big 35s whining on the asphalt.
wondering what's for dinner? Then go to HUTDshow.com for some great recipes that's sure to make you a better cook. This segment presented by Seagar Fishing Line, Bayou Outdoor Supercenter, Lake Fork Marina and Motel, and Daiwa Rods and Reels. Designed to outcast all other reels on the market today, Daiwa's T-Wing system has set the standard for all bait casting reels. Check out the entire Daiwa lineup at Bayou Outdoor Supercenter, Nichols Department Stores, and Toledo Town and Tackle.
Here's a quick word from Exodus Batteries. Nothing is worse for an angler than dead batteries. With Exodus batteries, you'll never have that problem again. Lithium battery technology designed to give you more power and last longer. Zero maintenance, 1/3 the weight of traditional lead-acid batteries. Exodus batteries have also a GPS tracking option to help you protect your investment. Batteries designed with more power that will last twice as long as lead-acid batteries in the long run, saving you money. Go to ExodusPower.com. That's ExodusPower.com to learn more about the best marine batteries on the market today. Exodus Batteries.
And again, on our Primo Target hotline, FLW Pro Larry Nixon, it's lessons from the pros, and we're worm fishing. Larry, one of the things that occurs to me is the action of a worm. There's certain your tackle box is a toolbox, and there's certain tools for certain jobs. Well, and obviously you are one of the best that ever was at reading water. How do you determine whether you want, a worm with a lot of action, or
paddle
maybe just
tail,
a little twirl tail, or
auger
maybe
tail.
you just want a straight worm like that cream scoundrel? What tells you? Is it the clarity of the water, or what?
It's the clarity of the water and the type of color cover that you fish. More than anything else, that's the two or three most important things that you have to think about. And the old straight tail is probably my standby. I use it more than anything else because I can get it to go through stuff without it hanging on or catching it, with some kind of an apprentice, a vintage on the side of it. And a straight tail and a Cinco is my two biggest baits anywhere. Now, if I go to Florida, you can bet your butt I'm going to have my ribbon tails, and I'm also going to have my old gator tails, because a swimming tail in water that's got a lot of grass, where you just need a little bit of swimming action to make it look more natural or lively, you just got to have it there. And that really is about the only three that I throw anymore. The paddle tail is more of a winding worm. If a guy don't have any patience and he really don't know anything else about bass fishing, he just don't throw it out there and reel it in. He don't understand the hopping and the swimming and letting it fall back to the bottom. The paddle tail is an awesome worm for a guy that just really doesn't understand it, because you can put it on, throw it out, let it sink to the bottom, and then just reel it in, and you just got an old paddle that's back there just flopping along like a crippled shad swimming through the water. And, basically that's probably the biggest rundown I could give you on when to use what.
What about your hooks? Do you have a standard thought process on size of the hooks for that little cream scoundrel, or maybe an 8-inch ribbon tail, or a 12-inch worm if you throw in a big old monster or something like that?
That's probably the best question you could have asked. Yes. There's no doubt that a straight shanked hook on a straight worm that's not too awful fat is absolutely the best choice for casting. And I use it a lot pitching. I use it a lot flipping. I use it a lot and the very best one for the normal average fisherman is a 3 or a 4/0. It's a Robo. It's a Gamakatsu hook, but Robo puts a little spur on the back of it, and they call it a rebar, and that's the Robo Worm Company, and that thing's got a little plastic spur on there so that your worm don't slide down when you're casting all the time. That's everybody's biggest hang-up with worm fishing.
Yep.
And what a straight shanked hook does better than the rest of them for Texas rigging is it pulls the top of the worm can pull down, and then you get good penetration with the hook point coming out the other side, and your hooking and landing fish ratio will go way up. And that hook is a little light wire hook, and 10, 12, 14, 17-pound test line, you can just bury it without even yanking on a fish. I mean, I'm I'm getting to where I don't have such a good hook set anymore. So all I do is pull on them, and with that hook, I never lose a fish.
That's a great
Now,
tip. Great tip.
On the other hand, if you're a bass fisherman and you're fishing worms or flipping type baits and you're in heavy cover, and let's say you're throwing 17, 20, 25-pound line or braid, myself, I prefer the old offset EWG. That's that big bite hook, and I'll run the hook point all the way through the worm and just skin hook it on the other side. And then that same thing. All you do is pull on them, and if it starts to penetrate, that hook it's going to get you the fish. You're not going to lose him.
Right.
That's my favorites now on a Carolina rig. And let's say you're in heavy grass or you're in heavy cover. That's when I use the offset round bend. I've got them all in my boat. Promise you guys, I got every worm hook God's made for fishermen. That's all I can say about that.
Yeah. There you go.
But you know what? It's second nature to you.
The biggest, widest gap, straight shanked hook, I cannot use them. I see these young kids using them, but they're using them with braided line, and the bigger the bite, the more fish I lose.
Huh.
So I try to pick a hook that just goes through my plastic bait, but yet gives me just enough bite that I don't have to worry about the plastic impeding my hook trying to go into the fish.
So you using the big 6, 7/0 hooks, that's just not going to happen.
No, I'll use a 5 and a 6 is as big as I ever go, unless, we're going into a different story here. 5 and a 6 is the biggest I ever use.
And that'd be on
But a
10 or
5/0
12-inch worms?
Yeah, a 5/0 round bend offset, or you can't really find a 6/0 anymore. I've got them. Gamakatsu used to make them, and I'm always scared something's going to go away. So when I find something I like, I get a lot of them. And I've still got 6/0 offset round bends, and they don't exist no more.
You wouldn't have any old mud bugs laying around the Nixon house, would you?
Let's see, maybe 20 or 30.
Yeah.
I bet they're all one color.
Hey, Larry,
I've got.
we had a question that we've done today on our Exodus Batteries question of the day. Should we consider the penalty for dead fishing tournaments, or reconsider the dead fishing tournaments? One proposal was being looked at is a fine instead of the half-ounce or quarter-ounce penalty, whatever it's been for each circuit. Maybe that penalty being paid to Wildlife and Fisheries for a dead fish. Now, this is more on the tour level that this question has kind of come up.
So let me rephrase the question. You would have to choose before you paid your entry fee on the FLW level. You'd have to choose if I have a dead fish that I weigh in.
Right.
Am I going to pay a fine, and we'll just say it's $1,000. Am I going to pay a fine that will go to the Wildlife and Fisheries, or am I going to assume, the quarter-pound penalty that's associated with that? You'd have to pick one or the other. What do you think about that?
Well, it's kind of a hard one to pick from, but based on history, I'd pick I like the 2-ounce problem. I know it cost the guy the Classic, and I know it cost I was at all them tournaments. I know every time it's been an issue, but a dead fish is not something a fisherman can control. And I'd hate to give away $1,000 for every time I had one die over the last 20 years. It was not my fault.
Right.
Yeah. Well, let's say if the fine's substantially less. What if it's $100 fine versus,
Oh, shoot.
Yeah.
Larry's writing the check every time on that. $100.
Yeah, I would probably go with the fine if it wasn't too bad.
Yeah, right.
You only lose one on average. You don't lose one a tournament. One every probably 3 tournaments for some reason. I've actually had my coil rings that actually kill a fish before, and I know in my mind that it was the coil ring. I was trying to get away from the puncture ones, and the ones I was using were big fat, and when you clipped them on the fish, it kept his mouth open, and I had 2 fish die, and I know good and well that's what killed them, and I ain't about to tell you what kind they are, but,
I wish you would, because I got a set. I hope that's not my problem.
Larry's got an old set he'll
to
probably give you.
Yeah.
you better go back to the puncture ones unless you got a very, very small clip, because that big clip on a 2-pound bass, that's not a good deal.
Well, you know what? Because of the dead fish issue, I was trying to explain a little bit earlier that the dead fish penalty arose simply because of the perception that dead fish gives to anybody who might be outside of our industry that doesn't understand that hey, number one, it's not against the law. You haven't broken the law by a fish dying,
right.
But it's that perception of those people that think, oh my God, they're fishing and they're just killing all the fish. They don't have any mindset on that. But as you've gone through the years, you've seen where this situation has cost someone, like you said, a trip to the Classic or something. Have you ever been that guy?
No. I've never had a dead fish cost me. I've had him cost me a check. Yes.
Yeah.
Finished 51st instead of 50th.
Yeah.
By 1 ounce, and if that one fish hadn't died, I'd have been the one in 50th, and the other guy would have been in 51st. Yes, that's happened a lot.
Yeah.
But as far as it costing me a tournament or the one that hits me the worst is the one the boy lost the Classic in Alabama, Dalton Bobo. By 1 ounce, and he had a dead fish. Cost him the Bassmasters Classic.
So, in your opinion, should this even be looked at, or should we stay status quo with what we've been doing? It's been working. What's your opinion on that on the pro side?
My honest opinion is we should stay status quo.
Yeah.
I hate opening up a can of worms when it really don't need to be open.
Right.
And that's basically what we're looking at here is changing the whole style of penalties, and some guys can't afford $100.
Yeah,
I'll be plumb honest with you. Some guys, it just break their heart if they didn't make a check, and then they had to spend another $100 to go home. It's one of them. It's one of them things that really it's a non-factor in a way, and the people that says we're killing fish, they can what they think.
Okay, what about August tournaments here in the South when really fish care is so tough?
Yeah.
You think we should we possibly look at not holding tournaments? In that particular month when it is so blasted hot.
July and August. Yeah.
That's another one of them things that I really don't even want to get into. I mean, I don't like hot weather tournaments. I'm going to be just point blank honest.
Yeah,
I hate them.
But that's not the reason. Most of the time, I don't have an issue killing fish. But now, some of your late afternoon, night tournaments when they're fishing 4 or 5 hours in the blistering heat right before dark, and they probably do. But hopefully, they take their fish home and eat them. That's what they should do.
Right.
And that's God's given right. That's our right.
Exactly.
You can limit fish if you want to, and if nothing else, clean them and give them to your neighbor. But to throw them away and let them float around on top, no, I don't never want to see that happen again.
Larry, you are just an amazing ambassador for the entire sport, and I can't tell you how much we appreciate the time and the relationship that we've built over the last couple of years. And will you come on and just share with us that wealth of knowledge? There's no money amount that we could put on the worth of that. So thank you for your time.
Yes, sir.
Oh, thank you guys very much. I love teaching people how to catch fish, and we're all a little hard-headed in some of the things, and I may have said something that somebody didn't like, but I'm here to help, and I'm here to teach, and you can call me anytime.
Amen.
We say stuff every week they don't like. So.
Hey, we're making a living at it.
Yeah, we're making a living at it.
Larry Nixon, thank you, brother, and continued success this year.
What? Say it again, Larry.
I said, take me off your Facebook page if you don't like me. That's what bothers me a bit.
There you go. There you go. Preach it, brother.
Amen.
All
Amen.
right.
He is Larry Nixon,
Thank you, Larry.
As we continue Lessons from the Pros, I'm going to tell you right now, if you didn't know anything about worm fishing 30 minutes ago, you are edumacated now.
Exactly.
Hook it up and track it down. We got Johnny Geis in a Lake Fork report up next, 11:30, The Tiger.
And a little bit of chicken fried. Cold beer on a Friday night. A pair of jeans that fit just right, and the radio.
Don't forget, you can catch us again Saturday morning from 6 to 8 right here on 1130 The Tiger. This segment is presented by Jimmy Grange's Natchitoches Ford Lincoln, Primo Targets, and Toledo Town and Tackle, your Toledo Bend Fishing headquarters for live bait, tackle, apparel, and the top name brands in the bass fishing world. Also, check out their awesome deli for breakfast, lunch, or dinner. That's Toledo Town and Tackle.
Hey, it's Gary McCoy and the Ranger Diowa Pro Staffer Steve Graff. An MLF update. You got anything? Because the MLF right now is stage 6. They are on Table Rock
as we speak. Aaron Martins is in first, 68.06, and Andy Montgomery is 64.13. So he's within.
He's opened up a 4-pound lead now.
Yeah, but actually Andy's kind of tightened it back up a little bit. So and Vincent is still 10 pounds behind in third. So it's an Andy Montgomery, Aaron Martins race with 1 hour and 57 minutes left in the final round. So.
And you know what? Johnny Geis is on the phone. Lake Fork guide Johnny Geis. Johnny, if you Johnny Geis were in an MLF style tournament on Lake Fork, would you be just banging the banks? Is that what you would do?
That's exactly what happened, guy. I'm sitting here in awe of what a morning we just had. In 3 hours, we boated over 20 bass that went from 6 and 8.5 pounds.
Oh.
So we'd have had some leaderboard updates like you've never heard of.
Johnny Geis in the lead with 20 fish that weigh 112 pounds.
Yeah, new record.
I'm going to send you the pictures, guys, and it'll be on my Facebook tonight. So if everybody wants to see what's ganging up here on Fork right now, I hadn't done this yet till today, and it was game on the first spot. Hadn't even checked the other 14 or 15 spots, and we did. We just got tired of catching them while ago, left the bite. So, wow.
So what's been the primary technique, Johnny?
Well, today I was back on shooting a live bait with the bluegill, and they've been biting for everybody, and I've been catching some too. Fishing jerk baits and top water baits on points and stuff. But they moved this week and ganging up out here, and there were several big fish caught yesterday. So I told myself this morning I need to get out and kind of practice up. I've got about 2 weeks of open dates right now. I need to fill up, and man, somebody can get some special fishing if they come over here right now.
All right, Gary, we got to go. The fish are out where we need to go.
Are we talking 12 foot of water? Or are we talking 20 foot of water?
Hey, that's a great question. Usually I catch them about 18 to 25. Well, this morning it was 10 foot, believe it or not, when I got the first bite. And I said, man, that's pretty shallow. And I slid off a little bit from 10 to 14. And it was, you just cannot imagine how quick. Well, y'all saw it one time, or a couple times.
Yeah.
How quick you get a bite. Every time you drop down, we were bowed up with a big fish. It was just unbelievable.
Now, Johnny, let me ask you this question. This came up today with, I don't know if you know Ken Smith, KenSmithFishing.com. I don't know if you know Ken.
Yeah, I watch it YouTube sometimes.
He does a great job, but one of the questions me and him talked about today, one of the questions he had for me, does fizzing really work? Do you ever have to fizz fish on Lake Fork out of 25 foot of water?
Not in the summertime. I've seen sometimes in December and January when you bring them up, and what happens is that you just got to take them slow coming up, and they don't that gullet doesn't come out of their mouth like it does, if you reel them up too fast. But no, I don't answer the question. Not unless it's like December, early January when the water gets down about 45 or 50. But no, I mean I've caught them as deep as 30 foot in summertime, and they'll go right back now.
Well, the question was, will that fish die? If you fizz that fish, puncturing that bladder, will that fish actually end up dying later?
Well, I don't know. You how many times we catch a fish that's got a plastic coming out of bottom down there and hooks coming out, and that has punctured that gullet too, coming through there.
That's true.
And they get it in the gullet and live. So I wouldn't think they would if it's done properly, but the fish stresses out a lot, and when they start laying on their side and not upright, they seem to lose that equilibrium, and to me, that's when they die. If you can kind of keep them straight up and down and give them time to reacclimate to the pressure, they're usually okay without fizzing.
Yeah.
Johnny, what's the deepest you've ever caught a largemouth bass?
About 40 foot.
Wow.
Holy cow. What made you look for a bass in 40 foot of water?
Because they wasn't in 38.
Good answer. That's a good answer.
Hey, man.
Smart ass answer, but it's a good answer.
So, are there times in July, August on Lake Fork where you're going to be looking around in that deep of water?
Not usually. Usually by then we get the thermocline and actually get shallower when it gets real, real hot. I think it's that wind stirs the water up a little better, and a lot of times they'll move on up to 18 or 20 foot. Right now in the early summer, they'll get on out to 25 to 30, 32, but once it gets really, really hot, you'll start seeing all the bait above 18 or 20 foot, and that's what I look for then, just trying to find the structure that meets that depth.
Is there a golden depth for you this time of the year that you start looking at? Is that 14 foot the magic number, or if you were just out there on the lake and you knew you didn't have any brush tops or anything, you were just cruising around, is there an area that you would say, okay, this is what I want to start running?
I pretty much got my graph, my electronic map is color coded, so I've got it from 20 to 30 foot. And that kind of draws the point. And what I start doing is start looking around those contours, either on the shallow side of that 20 to 30 foot or to the farthest end out to the 30 foot. And usually within that gap, I'll usually find the fish, and they're kind of point related. The little spot we hit a while ago where we caught so many fish, it was a little saddle, and water came up till about 9, 10 foot and then dropped down to 18 or 20 on both sides of it. And the wind was blowing pretty hard. It had them pegged up against that little contour break, and every time I'd get the boat in position, kind of lined up with two buoys in front of me, one or both of us. We had 4 doubles today with both of us having went on just fast.
Wow.
That's when it's fun.
Yeah. I mean, you're pulling 6-pounders over both sides of the boat. Yeah, yeah.
We're actually both flipping 6-pounders, and I've got twice I've dipped up in the net. They were just a little bit too heavy. My buddy Sam Trinka, he had the biggest one on, but she got off. She's well over 9 pounds. But as usual, they get up and throw the bait right there at the bank. But I'm sitting here. I hadn't caught fish like that all spring. You don't catch that many big fish when they're spawning. But right now, between now and about right after the 4th of July, I mean, God, what happens over here. It's game on. Lake Fork is fishing as good as I've ever seen it this time of year right now. So.
Johnny, what is it you say every time one of your clients catches their personal best? What does Johnny say about your job?
Oh, I love my job, man. That's the whole purpose of somebody getting a boat. What's your biggest fish you ever caught? And if they can usually keep it 8 or under, we got a good chance. If they said 10 or 11, I said, well, we might have to make several trips on that.
Yeah.
I just love it when you're out in the boat with Johnny right at daylight, and you're easing out and you're going to that first little hole that you're going to fish, and Johnny's looking around at what God created for us, and Johnny will say, I just love my job.
I'm telling you.
And it's
I mean,
obvious that you do.
We sit there today, and we run out of bait pretty quick. We only had about 10 or 12 of them. I went up under a bridge to catch some. There's a big old bald-headed eagle sitting right there on a dead tree, so we took a few minutes to pull up and take some good pictures of him. And, to go out and catch bluegill like that, I bet we caught 60 bluegill. Probably had to throw 20 of them back that were a pound.
Mm.
They were just huge. And, we got white bass biting, too. We could have caught 100 big old white bass in there, but I got away from them just a little bit so we could get the bass to bite today. So.
And even on a bad day, he can just go to Tiffany's and get a burger. I mean, that's a bad day.
There ain't a bad day.
There ain't a bad day.
No, we're sitting right here on the boat shed at Lake Fork Marina right now, just fixing to ride up there to get us that burger as you speak. And I'm going to leave them alone today. Like I said, I didn't have any trips for 2 weeks for some reason, but I hope all our listeners over there in that area pick up the phone. Let's book some days. But I want to share this. It just don't get any better. If the wind will let you fish right, it just doesn't get any better.
Okay, I know somebody right now wants to go fishing with Johnny Geist. They've heard us talk about him for the last several years.
Yeah, me and you.
Well, yeah, but we don't count.
Yes, y'all do. I mean, I do. If y'all tell me you're going to come tomorrow or next Monday or Tuesday, come on, man. I've got the time. And you call, we'll make the trip.
Okay,
and
but if somebody else is wanting to make that trip, tell us all the different ways that we can make that happen, Johnny.
All right, great question. I'd like one to call me because I can really set it up right there on the phone, but it's 972-800-3882, area code 972-800-3882, or send a text to that, and I'll get back with you if I'm on the water. My website is lakeforkbigfish.com, lakeforkbigfish.com, and got a contact information there. But my Facebook page, I try to post it pretty much daily with the pictures and what's going on. So that's what I like people to go to and just stay involved and follow that along. And if you can't come, find somebody that can and tell them to get over here and bring the kids, man. I want these kids to catch fish like this.
Oh, it's just awful when you have to start off the morning catching those great big old bluegill that you're going to use for bait. It's just terrible. I don't know how in the world you put up with that kind of behavior, every day that you fish, Charlie.
I just had a great time today, and my buddy's sitting here listening to this thing right now. Sam, you having a good time?
I had a ball. I picked up Johnny Geist, the fish whisperer.
The fish whisperer. That's Johnny.
That's exactly right. We've experienced that.
We talked to him. We listened to him pretty hard this morning, but man, it's great.
I found a picture of our first trip together the other day and a video. Our first trip together. Graf, do you know how big your personal best was that you caught that day?
860.
8 pounds, 13 ounces.
813.
8 pounds and 13 ounces. That was your big fish that day.
And that was the first fish of the day.
And we caught them just like you're talking about right now, Johnny.
Yeah.
And that was on Bell Hump. I hadn't been over there yet. I've been catching a bunch of big white bass. But these bass they finally left the shallows. They were a little late this year. And, because the spawn was kind of late, too. And, man, they're back out there chomping right now. And some of them are roughed up. Some of them are always fattened up. And some of the pictures I'll post tonight, bellies look like they're still spawning, but they're not. They've just been out there fattening up.
And another good thing, the lake is full.
It is. It's gorgeous, man. I tell you, it's a good time for fishing right now.
Check out these pictures. Johnny will have them all posted. I promise you, he keeps his Facebook page updated daily. Just go to your search box there on Facebook and just type in Johnny Geist. It'll come up for you. Or go to lakeforkbigfish.com. Johnny, we love you, brother, and we're ready to come.
Yeah.
Call me. All right, guys. Thanks so much.
Later.
And his job just sucks so bad. Now he has to go eat at Tiffany's.
Exactly.
It's
I
just
feel
awful.
sorry for him.
Oh yeah. We're gonna hold a radiothon for
We
him.
got the violin.
We're hooking up and tracking down 11:30. The Tiger.
We hope you've enjoyed today's show and just maybe you picked up on some useless information that'll make you a smarter outdoorsman. This final segment is presented by Gamakatsu Hooks, Spro Lures, Nichols Department Stores, Cypress Knee Outdoors, and Lake Fork guide Johnny Geis. One more time, here's Gary, Steve, and Mike.
Here's your dial of best times to fish. This week is rated as fair for Friday and Saturday and poor for Sunday, as the moon will be on the decrease from 75 down to 55% by Sunday.
Can you catch a fish when the moon and the sun are up at the same time?
I'm sure you can. I've never actually. You talking at the high point?
When you can see the moon and the sun
at
the same time, can you catch a fish?
I never thought about that.
I can't catch a fish if the moon and the sun are up at the same time.
Huh.
Of course, I can't catch a fish if the moon's up by itself or the sun's up by itself. But
if I got that to worry about, I'm in trouble.
Yeah.
I can tell you. But anyway, summertime temps have returned and will return this weekend with highs in the lower 90s. Lows drop into the
next week.
I know.
Every day in the 90s.
Upper 60s will be the lows. There's only a slight chance of rain all weekend unless that's changed. Best time, early morning this weekend, 4:23 to 7:23 a.m. on Friday. Sunrise at 6:11, sunset at 8:12. Saturday, 5:10 a.m. till 8:10. Sunrise at 6:11, sunset 8:13. And on Sunday, 5:55 till 8:55 a.m. with sunrise at 6:10, sunset at 8:13. This has been your Daiwa Best Times to Fish.
We're going to go a solid week without rain. There'll be people that are going to Walmart to buy all the water they can because of the drought. You know, they're just not used to that kind of dry weather. It's rained so much this year. Holy cow.
In 4 hours the other night at Natchitoches, I had 4 1/4.
Wow.
4 1/4. The lake came up over my dock a foot and was in my yard.
How fast does Sibley go down?
It goes down pretty quick.
Okay.
It really does. Within 2 days, it'll be back below my pier.
Yeah.
I mean, it goes down that fast.
Well, you know, Cross Lake was closed for several days.
Yeah.
Was it last week? I guess it was last week.
Now, Sibley has that big cylinder. There's no gate.
Yeah.
Just when the water gets over that cylinder, it just goes out.
Uh-huh.
So there's no gate to open up to let more out.
Yeah.
Once it's out, it goes out. But anyway.
Okay, you're hooking up and tracking down recipe of the week. This one's got me peaked up here. Party chicken.
Yeah, buddy.
Without a doubt, maybe the best chicken recipe there is. Chicken breast along with dried meat, cream of mushroom soup, and sour cream puts this dish in the Chicken Recipe Hall of Fame. Simple, easy, and absolutely delicious. If you want to impress your dinner guests, surprise them with this awesome party chicken recipe. If you want to see that and the many other mouth-watering recipes, go to HUTDshow.com. HUTDshow.com. Okay, we promised some results earlier from the Sealy tournament on Toledo Bend.
Oh, yeah.
And that's one of the things that we want to talk about is because, you know, Bob's not on here this week, and I know that Toledo is always, it's not usually as big as Rayburn as far as the number of entries on that, but I would venture it's got to be second. You know, the only thing that would beat it would be Rayburn.
Exactly. Patrick Ingram won this event with a 9.12 from Lena, Louisiana.
See, and Sealy said he thought we'd have several over 10.
Yeah, no,
on this one.
Not this one. Matter of fact, from guys I talked to, Kevin Jean, who actually fished it, said there's a lot of 4 to 5s.
Really?
Lots.
I wouldn't have thought that a 4-pound fish would have made you a check on Toledo. And that just goes to show you right there.
It got you at the bottom of the money.
Yeah, but you still got your entry fee back.
Yeah, in some cases.
Yeah.
Second place was James Thompson from Hemp Hill, Texas with a 902. Third place was Brian Mills from Kindred, Louisiana with an 896. Fourth place was Rodney Valentine from Athens, Louisiana with an 8.96. And Cole Brewer, who we had on the show, from Leesville, Louisiana, was fifth place with an 859. So congratulations. Total fish caught, 728 fish. And let me average that out real quick, and I'll tell you what that means per fish as far as pounds. Let's see here. Total fish caught.
You're listening to the radio right now while a man is using a calculator. I want you to think about just how ridiculous that really is.
728.
He's carrying his naught.
The average fish weighed in, 4.92.
Wow.
That's why I took the time to do that. That's incredible.
Yeah.
That's great.
Now tell me this. Toledo Bend, it seems to me like, is having a resurgence in the number of entries in the replica program.
Yeah.
Do you think Toledo's coming back up? or is it still going to be
I don't
rough
think
for the
so.
next few years?
I think it's still rough.
Okay.
I think it's still rough.
Despino Tire Events coming up on Saturday, June 1 on Toledo. And you know what was strange? One of the things that I noticed was that Randy's going to have the weigh-in there at Sammy Gill.
Sammy Gill Park, June the 1st, and that's where everything will be hosted.
Did they decide to move north because there were conflicts down south, or is it just easier to
Cypress Bend? He wasn't able to get Cypress Bend.
And what was the other one down there? Because he weighed in. They had the weigh-in there the year before that. The one right below Cypress Bend.
Oh, Big Bass Marina.
Big Bass Marina, yeah.
Where me and you, we fished that event. Yeah. And so he went north.
Okay.
Because he could get.
I think that's awesome.
I do too. I think it's.
And the cool part about Sammy Gill is, especially as you're coming into weigh, you're out of a south wind this time of the year.
Yes.
Because you're tucked away in that little cove right there.
First place, guaranteed, $20,000.
Dude, it's some money.
There will be some people come out of the woodwork for
yeah.
this event.
There's some money.
Of course, the proceeds benefit the Children's Miracle Network hospitals. And so Randy's been doing his Fishing for a Cause is the name of the tournament, the Despino Tire Bass Tournament. It's a great event. And Kevin Smith is one of the guys involved with Despino, but Randy and his crew do an outstanding job with this event.
Hey, I got to toot his horn real quick. You know, our own Jay Watley did the national radio commercial for the Despino Tire.
Did I really?
Yeah.
I didn't even know that.
Every radio station in the world that's running that commercial is running your version of that.
Those lucky radio stations.
But I mean, now, were you excited when you were doing it? Did you realize, hey, this is a ton of money?
Yeah, I didn't know that, actually. I still don't realize that. Even hearing you say it.
That there's $20,000 to the winner. That didn't occur to you that, hey, this is
I thought you meant a lot of money for me for doing the commercial.
You get squat.
Of course I was excited about that.
That's what I'm talking
Yeah,
about. Why
of
would
course.
we care about what you make?
I thought that was the question.
No.
Because I never
Did you
realized
realize,
that.
Did it make you want to go fish a bass tournament?
I told you last week, my best friend got a bass boat. I'm going to be the best fisherman you know in a couple months.
He says we're going to have him on the show one day.
I'm going to get Jay in the boat with me.
Yeah. Okay.
I'll get Jay in the boat.
He's got that look.
Are you kidding me?
does.
You can make it happen.
I'm so ready to get out there and master that craft.
Yeah.
Yeah. Well, you heard a great worm fisherman today. If you learn to master worm fishing, you'll be a great angler.
Yeah. $20,000 in the Despino Tire.
Update. Here we go. Championship round, MLF. Aaron Martin's leading it with 71.13.
How many fish is that?
It doesn't show right now.
Okay.
He was at 36, so I figure he's around.
Is that in
40.
this round or in this day or just in
That's
in
overall
the whole
for the
event?
day. And this is the final period. They've got
He's
1
caught
hour.
36 fish today.
Yes, yeah, that's just today.
He's smoking them.
Oh, well, they caught 70-something yesterday apiece.
Holy
These
cow.
guys were killing them. It was crazy. Andy Montgomery is 64 pounds, so he's like 8 pounds behind him right now.
And see, Andy was actually ahead of him, so Aaron has found something.
Now, Andy's hooked up right now.
Yeah, Andy's fishing the bushes.
Yeah, he's getting one out of the bushes. And again, that's what's happened here. See, the top of the bushes, which you can't see on the radio here, but top of the bushes, Gary, had water over them when they started 3 days ago.
Oh, wow.
That's how much the water, it's dropped 3 feet in 3 days.
Tell me this, you're fishing bushes.
Yeah.
Would you rather it be like it is now where the tops are exposed, you still got good depth in those bushes, or would you rather the whole bush be
No,
underwater?
I like it where it is right now.
Yeah,
I can get them out better.
See, I feel like that at times, especially down on Toledo, that the water gets so high, you can't get back as far as the fish are.
Not only that, and it's harder to get them out.
Oh, yeah. Well,
Much
I'm
harder
not
to
too
get
worried. One of the things that I wanted to ask Larry was we were talking
can
about
ask
Larry
me. You
Nixon.
can ask
Okay,
me.
I'll ask you. Is there ever an application where you would fish braid in clear water?
Not without a leader.
Okay.
I would with a leader.
Okay.
Yeah.
And you've learned to tie that special knot?
Oh, yeah. I've got matter of fact, I learned a new knot. It's a much easier knot.
What's
and
it called so we can YouTube it? You'll put it on the website?
Yeah, if I think about it. Yes.
Okay.
I'll try to think about it.
You just know how to tie it.
It was actually on Fishing Texas TV show. They demonstrated the knot. And it was so simple, I was like, that's a lot simpler than what I'm tying. And it's quicker, and it's just as strong, if not stronger. And I was like, heck. So I'll show it to you.
What's that boy's name? Clark Winlet?
Clark Winlet, yeah. He's from Texas.
Is that the
No,
host?
he wasn't. This was a saltwater guy that actually showed the knot.
Oh, okay.
Yep. And but anyway.
All right. Well, I was just wondering, when it comes to a clear water situation, if you were real deep, if there comes a point where
Not without a leader.
It really doesn't matter.
Yeah, no, I thought with a leader.
Okay.
So.
Next week, any plans for next week? We're going to be getting ready for the Boss Championship, I know. Also, the Randy DeSpino turn. Hey, why don't we get Randy DeSpino on the show next week?
That's my plan.
Okay, Randy DeSpino, he'll talk about the tournament and maybe talk about his FLW experience because he's a genuine, bona fide touring pro.
Oh yeah, he's been on tour this year.
Okay, we'll do that next week.
Oh, it'll be a great show.
Keep an eye on the website.
And Eccles will be back.
HUTDshow.com. Take us home, Brother Graff.
Here's this week's final word. Today we talked with a Bigfoot expert about a creature that many don't think exists. But for those of us who have spent a lot of time in the woods and on the waterways of East Texas and Louisiana, we've all heard things that sometimes you just can't explain. The piney woods and the swamps have been a backdrop of stories that many believe are true. Sometimes we see things that we're really not sure what it was, but we definitely know we saw something that we just can't dismiss. So whether you believe in Bigfoot or not, understand it still makes for some great radio. For Gary McCoy, Mike Eccles, Jay Wiley, yours truly, Steve Graff, thank you for listening. Tune in Saturday morning right here on 1130 The Tiger for more Bigfoot stories and hooking up and tracking down.